Blue Jackets play the Sabres for the first time this season, but what does David Jiricek have to do to get into this lineup? We discuss on today's Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms over on YouTube and on SiriusXM. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, today we are going to talk about tonight's game. Some lineup changes, some good, some not so good. One that I'm really quite excited about, and one that I am really quite disappointed in. We'll talk about what the Sabres have looked like so far this season, what I expect the matchup to look like, and we'll finish off with some predictions. So let's get started with the lineup changes. Again, some not surprising, some a little bit more surprising. Erik Gudbranson put on IR yesterday for an amount of time, we don't know. And Elvis Merzlikins also is out with, they're calling it an upper body injury, but they called it fatigue, and then they called it physical fatigue, and now they're calling it an upper body injury. And I don't know whether that's managing the Twitter masses or whether they're just gathering more information. I don't know. So Jet Greaves called up on emergency recall. And also Jack Johnson is going in for Erik Gudbranson, we'll talk about in a second. But what is interesting is Justin Danforth is healthy. He'll be making his season debut tonight. He had off-season wrist surgery, I believe it was. And surprisingly, he is going in for Kevin Labanc and not anyone in the bottom six, which did surprise me because I like Justin Danforth a lot. He is a bottom six player. Kevin Labanc, I thought, had played fine. Not great. So I'm not, super broken up about the fact that they're taking him out of the lineup. And I do kind of love what they've decided to do with the moving around of lines, which is, namely, Kent Johnson has made it into the top six. Kent Johnson, who has led this team, who has led forwards in ice time for the past 2 games straight, has been getting power play time and penalty kill time and plenty of even strength time as well. Is finally being rewarded with a call-up. I talked yesterday about how I wasn't sure how I felt about this, specifically just because I really like the chemistry that he and Sillinger have been building, but I am really excited to see what he does on a line with Adam Fantilli. That Fantilli, I believe it's going to be Van Riemsdyk, Fantilli, and Johnson, I think could be a sneaky fun line. If they can get Van Riemsdyk to just kind of hang out in front of the net, then I think we'll probably see some dividends there. Disappointed to see Cole Sillinger lose the line mate that he had a ton of chemistry with. But again, we'll see. I believe Danforth is going onto his wing, so it's going to be Puccia, Sillinger, Danforth, which is a much more reasonable third line. I love Kent Johnson with Cole Sillinger, but that is not a third line duo, but Danforth and Puccia are much more reasonable wing options on third line, keeping that top line intact, keeping that fourth line intact. And I've liked the fourth line a lot, actually. There's Aston Reese, Olivier Corrali line, not in that order, but it's been there's been a lot of shot suppression on that line, which frankly we haven't seen from a fourth line on the Blue Jackets maybe in a million years, if ever. So overall, like what's happening with the forward group. Disappointed to see Cole Sillinger and Kent Johnson get separated, but it might be for the greater good if they can get Fantilli going, which I'm crossing my fingers. Defense is happening? Question mark. Top four is staying the same. obviously Erik Gudbranson out on IR. We don't know what the issue is. We probably won't know what the issue is because the Blue Jackets are being extremely tight-lipped about injuries this season. Jack Johnson is going back into the lineup for Erik Gudbranson. David Jiricek continues to sit, and I know it's been this is game 4 of the season, so we don't need to panic yet. However, what does this guy have to do to get into the lineup? I get if you want to replace Gudbranson with another veteran. I personally would replace Gudbranson with the best available defenseman, but I guess that's an old-fashioned way of thinking in this league, or a too newfangled maybe. Again, I've liked and disliked some of Dean Everson's choices. I don't understand why it took 3 games for Jordan Harris to get in the lineup. I'm glad that he's sticking in the lineup. I don't understand what David Jiricek has to do, and I don't understand how it benefits him to sit on this team and do nothing. If he's going to sit in the press box, send him to Cleveland. He doesn't need waivers. Cleveland could always use more bodies. If they want him to play, why do they not want him to play top pairing minutes in Cleveland? Cleveland lost their number 1 defenseman in Jake Christensen, who looks like he might be a semi full-time member of the Blue Jackets right now, which is kind of cool. But why do you not just send Jiricek down, put him with Matejchuk, and watch those 2 guys cook? Because I really liked them together in the preseason. Obviously, preseason does not determine what they do in the regular season, but if you want that to be a defense pairing in, 2-3 years down the line, why not get it started now instead of having David Jiricek sitting in the press box, presumably getting more and more annoyed about not being able to play, and it's just the asset mismanagement. I thought we were done with asset mismanagement at this point. We got rid of Pascal Vincent, we got rid of Jan Kekalainen, both of whom kind of jerked Jiricek around last season. What does he have to do? I don't understand, and no one seems to really be talking about it. So I would love if literally any reporter would be like, "Hey, what's the plan with Jiricek?" Which that might happen. It might have happened. I might have missed it. So if it has happened, please let me know. But I genuinely do not know what David Jiricek has to do to get into this lineup, because you cannot tell me that Jack Johnson is a more positive influence on the game than David Jiricek. Does David Jiricek have some warts and flaws to figure out? Sure. But he's young, he's smart, he knows the game. Jack Johnson is a great guy, I'm sure. A good veteran. There's no way he should be in the top 6 over David Jiricek at this point. And it makes me feel like I'm missing something, but we'll see. Maybe Jack Johnson will surprise us all and score an insane goal tonight. We live in hope. Final thing, Daniil Tarasov is starting. The goaltending hasn't been sparkling for either goalie for the Blue Jackets. Merzlikins is 0-2, has allowed 7 goals in those 2 games and has a save percentage of .854. Daniil Tarasov has 1 win, allowed 4 goals on 30 shots for an .867 save percentage. That was the win against Colorado. But they were not going to start Jet Greaves. If they have both one of Merzlikins or Tarasov healthy, I don't think they'll start Jet Greaves, especially if it's just kind of an emergency call-up. I don't know when the Blue Jackets' first back-to-back game is. If they have a back-to-back, they might very well start Tarasov, start Greaves, but as of right now, they don't have a back-to-back this week or next week. Their first back-to-back of the season is November 1 and 2. And that's at Winnipeg. And then, that is in Columbus versus Winnipeg, and then at Washington. I expect Elvis will be back by then, but we'll see. But that's kind of it for lineup changes. Like I said, there's nothing super out of this world surprising. There is many things that are frustrating and some things that are actually kind of cool. So we are manifesting another Adam Fantilli hat trick tonight. And we are manifesting that KJ gets to stay there, and we are manifesting that David Jiricek gets it into the lineup at some point before he gets so mad that he demands a trade and then becomes a stud somewhere else. Because I feel like we've seen this I've seen this movie before, you know? Let's take a quick break, and then when we get back, I want to talk about who's been big for the Blue Jackets so far, who we expect to have big night tonight, and we'll talk a little bit about Buffalo as well. So that's all coming up in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I want to tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and you can start the season with a big return. All you got to do is place your first $5 bet, and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, whether you win or lose that bet. And even better, when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You don't have to have like NHL.com open and ESPN open and whatever like fancy analytics site that you use open to try and figure out who's going to score the next goal, who's going to get the most shots. Like, you can do everything on FanDuel itself. You can just have it's all one tab. It's super, super easy. I use it for fantasy. I use it for fantasy hockey a lot, and it is just great. We love FanDuel here at the Locked On Podcast Network. So once again, $5, your first $5 bet will get you $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just go to FanDuel.com to register now. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're going to talk a little bit about the Blue Jackets that are playing in tonight's game, who we expect to have good games, who is having a good season so far, who will show up tonight. Like, hopefully everyone, but there are a couple of guys that I am expecting to have big games. One of whom is Igor Chinakhov, who's leading the Blue Jackets in scoring right now. He's got 5 points in 4 games so far, or excuse me, 5 points in 3 games so far, has a goal and 4 assists, has very just kind of quietly been racking up the assists. Again, that top line has been really clicking. I was suspicious of it when they put it together because both Chinakhov and Marchenko are shooters, and you can only shoot the puck. Like, only one person could shoot the puck at a time, you know? But it seems like it's working out. I think having those two guys with Monahan has unlocked some kind of chemistry, which is fun to see. And yeah, if I would have not have guessed that Chinakhov would be leading the team in scoring at this point. Also, point per game players. We have Monahan, who has 2 goals, 2 assists. Marchenko has a goal and 3 assists. Kent Johnson, 2 goals, 2 assists. And David Jiricek as well, quietly a point per game. He's got 3 assists, hasn't scored so far, but things are looking promising. In terms of like surprises, I am surprised that Ivan Provorov hasn't picked up any assists or points yet, because he had a really hot start to the season last year. Was again very good offensively, just kind of a nightmare defensively, and I wonder if playing with Werenski has kind of let him chill on going all offense all the time, and it's kind of forcing him to play a little bit more defensively, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And it seems to be kind of, again, knock on wood, it seems to be kind of working out for him so far. Would love to see him rack up a couple of points at some point, but if this is the Provorov we're going to get, I will take a defensively sound Provorov that doesn't put up a ton of points versus a Provorov that puts up points and is stressful to watch in his own zone. Other surprises, Adam Fantilli has 1 point through his first 3 games. I do think that's maybe a little bit based on his line mates. Kevin Labanc has 2 assists in 3 games. Van Riemsdyk has a goal in 3 games. Adam Fantilli has about 4 or 5 more minutes of ice time on average per game than them. He's getting power play time. He's getting penalty kill time. So, like, again, I'm really excited to see what the Fantilli-Johnson duo can do, because I think they're perfectly suited to each other, in that Adam Fantilli is kind of your prototypical power forward, and Ken Johnson is all skill all the time. So if Van Riemsdyk can keep up with them, I think that line could be really, really good. So that's a line that I'm looking at to have a big game specifically. We know that the top line is going to be fun to watch and going to be good. But I would love that second line to really break out. And I think it will with the addition of Kent Johnson, who, again, has led forwards in ice time for the past 2 games, and I believe has more ice time than any other forward on average. He's averaging over 20 minutes of ice time a game so far this season, which, small sample size early in the season, but when you look at last season, he was averaging 13.5 minutes last season. The season before that, averaged 14.5. That was his rookie season where he had 40 points in 79 games. KJ breakout season. Like, that's what we're here to see, you know? In terms of players to watch on the Buffalo side of things, Alex Tuck has 6 points in, I think, 5 games the Sabres have played so far. Yeah, 5 games. Alex Tuck leading the way, 2 goals, 4 assists. Tage Thompson has 3 goals in 5 games. The Sabres themselves are not having a great start to the season. They're 1-3-1. They just had an overtime loss to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Nope, that's not the correct team. The Pittsburgh Penguins. It's very early here. I'm sorry. And then they've got losses to the Kings and then 2 to the Devils. They beat the Panthers. So 1-3-1 so far to start the season. Not great. Obviously, Devin Levi in goal has been pretty solid for them. He's 1-1, has a .919 save percentage. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has not been great. He's 0-2-1. They've been very good offensively, not quite as good defensively. Not as good as the Blue Jackets have been offensively, though. So we'll go. I just want to go through. I like to look at the team stats and how they match up against the rest of the league. Again, very, very small sample size, very early returns, but the Blue Jackets are sitting at a 25% power play success at the minute, which I think means that they've scored 1 out of the 4 attempts that they've had so far, or potentially 2 out of the 8 attempts that they've had so far. It can't be 8. It must be out of 4. But they're 12th in the league right now. Buffalo has yet to score a power play goal, which means they're probably going to score one tonight, because that's how this game works. Is I point out that the team is not good at something, and then they immediately do the thing to prove me wrong. Blue Jackets penalty kill needs to be better. Currently sitting at 70%, which my guess, like if I had to guess, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. My guess is they've allowed 3 power play goals on 10 shots or 10 attempts, which is not great. Definitely room to improve there. Face-off percentage, they're in the top half of the league, still sub 50%. In terms of players, I don't know if I have... here we go, face-off percentage. For the Blue Jackets, Sean Monahan is really leading the way here at 62%. But Sillinger and Fantilli both struggling in the face-off dot. Sean Corrali also excellent. He's at 63.2. Monahan at 62. And then Sillinger at 39.6. Fantilli at 36.4. Like, young centers in this league, expected. Very expected. They do need to bring those up. So hopefully Sean Monahan is going to give them some pointers or something, because Sean Monahan is maybe one of the better face-off dudes in the league. So hopefully he has some tips and tricks to teach the kids, and they can get that face-off percentage up. Like I said, it's still top half of the league, but would love for it to be over 50%. Here is something kind of unprecedented. The Blue Jackets are in the top 10 in the league in scoring right now. They're scoring 3.67 goals per game, which is good for 9th in the league. They're also allowing 3.67 goals per game, which is 23rd in the league in terms of goals that are being allowed. So, if they allow fewer goals, this team is going to go straight up. And again, I hate to sit here and blame goaltending, but the goaltending hasn't been great. This team has allowed, I believe, 11 goals over their first 3 games, which is super not ideal. Especially when you look at this team has had a massive uptick in offense. They've scored at least 2 goals in all 3 games so far. I believe they scored 2 goals against the Wild, 4 against the Avalanche, and then 3 against the Panthers. So they really should be scoring at least 3 goals tonight, on average, give or take, blah, blah, blah. They should be allowing fewer than 3 goals, was my point that I was actually trying to make there. I got distracted. I got mixed up with my stats. They need the goaltending to have a good game tonight. And again, they don't need to be Vezina level, but I will take league average. I will take a 900 or a 905 save percentage for Daniil Tarasov tonight, please and thank you. Let's take another quick break, and then we'll do a couple of quick predictions for tonight's game. Well, nothing too serious, nothing too like fancy, but we'll do a couple of fun predictions. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Game Time. I love using Game Time. It's the best ticketing platform that I've ever found. They have live events for basically any kind of event that you can think of. Like if you need a ticket to get in, you can get it at Game Time. They've got sports, music, theater, comedy. Comedy is not a word. And they've got incredible deals no matter what time it is, no matter when it is, like 30 minutes before the event starts, they've got deals. 3 months before the game starts, or the event starts, they've got deals. They've got all-in pricing, which I love. You can toggle this on, and it means that there's no surprise fees at checkout. So you don't like think, hey, this is a great deal, and then get there and pay, 30 to 50% on top of what you were expecting to pay. They've got a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy for basically every arena or event venue or anything like that. And if you find tickets in your section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms do apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. I also have to let you know about Prize Picks. What is Prize Picks? Well, it is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It's the only place that you can get real money on daily fantasy with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup live, which is great. You don't get screwed by the Blue Jackets injury curse, for example, which just keeps on happening. It puts its members first, so all their withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. I don't have to sit around waiting for 5 business days to get my money. So sign up today. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50. It's guaranteed, so you can put $5 on literally whatever you want. And it is the best way to win money this season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. And I'd love a way to turn my opinions into money. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Let's talk about predictions. Because I haven't had a time to do a ton of these like pre-game previews yet, but I always love to make some weird predictions. Well, not weird predictions, they're pretty straightforward predictions, but I like to get weird with them. So what I usually like to do, if you're new here, welcome on in. I hope you come in every day, like many of my wonderful, wonderful listeners. What I like to do is I like to predict the final score. And I like to predict either who's going to open the scoring for the Blue Jackets or who's going to score the game-winning goal, depending on, again, if I think the Blue Jackets are going to win or not. I do think the Blue Jackets are going to win tonight. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to say this is going to be a 4-2 win for the Blue Jackets. We're going to include an empty net goal in there, which doesn't count because empty net goals don't count. But in terms of, I'm going to go opening the scoring, I think. I think let's go with an Adam Fantilli goal to open the scoring. What's going to happen is the scoring is going to be opened by Mathieu Olivier actually, I believe, had 3 of his 4 preseason goals against the Sabres, which is funny. Maybe we'll get a Mathieu Olivier goal. I think that would be neat, but I'm going to go with a safer bet. I'm going to go with Adam Fantilli. Scored against the Avalanche has had not a down start to the season necessarily, but I think it's fair to say has been looking to find his groove. So I'm gonna say an Adam Fantilli goal. And hey, let's get wild with it. Let's say Adam Fantilli on the power play to open the scoring for the Blue Jackets. Why not? That's the main prediction. I would love to see in terms of like this is not a prediction necessarily, but like let's have like a goal and 2 assists for Kent Johnson tonight. Let's have a goal and an assist for Adam Fantilli. Let's watch the kids have a breakout game, kind of like they did against Colorado. The 6 goal scorers, the ones that scored against a goalie. I think the oldest one was Chinikov, and he's like 23. So, it might have been Marchenko. I don't remember if Marchenko scored in that game, but if all of your scorers against a goalie are under the age of 25, like that's fun and exciting. So let's have another game like that. Maybe allow fewer goals, but if you could score a bunch of goals, I think that would be really fun for me personally. But honestly, I have been mostly impressed with the Blue Jackets thus far in the season. The goaltending hasn't been where it needs to be, but it's very early. Tarasov usually takes a minute to find his groove, so hopefully he does that sooner rather than later. The kids are getting ice time. The kids are playing. We're seeing more structured hockey than we were last season. I know I saw a couple of people get frustrated with like they're tired of losing scrappy because that's what's been happening for a couple of seasons now, and I get that. I hate to be like, well, it's different this year. This looks like a different team. I still don't know if this is I still don't think this is going to be a playoff team, but this is a team I think that could do what the Blue Jackets in kind of the early to mid 2010s love to do this thing where they didn't make the playoffs, but they did ruin the playoffs for a lot of other teams. They would go out and they would go on that like 8-game winning streak to finish the season against teams that were fighting to get into the playoffs and make it harder for them to get into the playoffs. And like that's what I could see the Blue Jackets doing is here's a bunch of teams that need to bank points to make it into the playoffs, and the Blue Jackets are going to be like, actually no, we will take those points and not use them. Thank you. So like that's my guess is what happens this season. Again, I don't agree with all of what Dean Eberson is doing, but early returns are promising. I think I'm returning to my cautious optimism, especially when it comes to the forwards. And I am, again, feeling cautiously optimistic about tonight's game being a kind of offensive. We hope. That's kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow we will break down tonight's game, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we expected and what actually happened, all of that good stuff. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jacket. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, for making us your first listen of the day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We are over on YouTube. We are on SiriusXM. And thank you for being an everydayer. I appreciate y'all. And I'll be back tomorrow with some post-game thoughts and feelings. Until then, make sure you stay locked on.